Hello, thank you for having me. So I'm Richard Thompson. I'm here to talk to you guys a little bit about what is it that a corporate looks at when engaging with startups. And hopefully in the next 20, 25 minutes or so that I have with you, I'll be able to give you a little bit of insight around what your potential customers, your potential partners are looking for. So hopefully the slides are working. Perfect. So before I go into those tips and those opportunities of what will help you guys, I want to give you a little bit of context around where we are coming from and why we as Barclays are trying to do it this way. So many of you may be familiar with Rise Vilnius, one of our open innovation communities right here in Lithuania. We have 4 others globally, one in London, one in New York, one in Mumbai, and the other in Tel Aviv. And the reason that we as Barclays invested into building out these communities is that we recognize that we are needing the talent from those ecosystems to help us continue to be relevant to our customers, to our clients, and to move ourselves forward. So, and this is the problem that we have faced. It's the Innovators Dilemma, a phrase coined by Clayton Christensen around what is disruptive innovation and how can you protect yourself as an organization with that happening. And so our team and our responsibility is looking at what is that 2 to 5 year horizon, where do we see the challenges, the problems, the threats of how we as an organization may be disruptive, and how therefore can we protect ourselves from doing that. So it's one thing to have a strong fintech community, but how do we as a bank access that? And that's where my team comes in. We look to build out programs and partnerships for the ability for Barclays to engage and extract value from those ecosystems. And we do that by looking at the maturity life cycle of organizations and startups. We do it by recognizing that the needs of startups are different based on where they are in terms of their growth, and our expectations are different based on where they are as an organization. So what I'm trying to articulate here through this slide is our thinking around how do we actually move that forward? How do we iterate quickly as an organization to be able to work with those startups who have less capital than we have and traditional partners and vendors have, and how can we actually look to fail fast and prove that quickly over time? And so what you'll see is that based on the opportunity or challenge that we have, we'll go through this cycle. We'll look at, okay, what actually is the first opportunity that we can look to validate with that startup, with that entrepreneur, so that they understand the value that they can give to us. And if it makes sense, both sides can then start investing their time and their resources to start scaling that out. We have a number of programs and partnership approaches to do that. I'm going to speak to you guys a little bit more about the Barclays Accelerator powered by Techstars shortly. But I do want to mention kind of some of the other elements. You know, a lot of where the market is going and the industry is going, especially in the UK and in the US, is towards this scale-up kind of mantra. How do we actually get organizations to not only become out of this kind of startup phase, but actually how do they then grow, and actually how can we partner with them so that we can get them in front of our clients and partners? And so we're looking to do that through new models such as the refinery program that we're launching, as well as doing kind of more joint ventures and co-creation projects. So that's the, thank you for humoring there as I give you some context around how we think about it. Now let's get into a bit more of the detail of how we can help you and what we look for. So the Barclays Accelerator is in its 4th year. We have a portfolio of 110 companies from our time and partnership with Techstars. And those programs are based in London, New York, and Tel Aviv. And so what we're looking to do through the program is match problem statements and opportunity statements that the bank faces to those startups that can help us move that forward. And so this slide kind of articulates how we look at it. We want to understand how can we find that selection pool and those best organizations. We want to understand how we can add value and partner to those organizations as a partner, but also as a potential investor. And so what's amazing from our perspective is that we've seen our portfolio of 110 companies being worth in excess of 500 million pounds over that 4-year period. That's a 1,200% growth. And we've seen 14 of those businesses with Barclays become an annualized partner with us. And so how do we get there, and how can you learn from the journey that we've had today? So the way that we recruit our programs is through 3 core stages. And this is where we work with Techstars, our partners, to do that. Recruitment. It's a key element for us to understand how can we access the best talent. We'll leverage our Rise ecosystem, we'll leverage our VC partners, but how do startups actually start making themselves aware and recognizing that? Yes, there's online, you can go into the Accelerator, but what we found over time and how we get that 800 program is that it's really, really important to have those relationships to leverage the network. And from leveraging that network, what I'm asking for you guys, and hopefully letting you guys know, is that you will then be able to strike when the coals are hot. You'll be able to actually start getting into those conversations when it's appropriate. That's the biggest challenge that we find, and that we are told that startups find, is actually understanding where and how should they actually even be heard before they can even start the conversation. You can't open the door for someone if you're not actually aware of where that door is. Can we go back a slide, please? Thank you. Selection. So this is an extremely robust process that we do with Techstars and Barclays. You saw before, we get about 800 applicants per program, and we have to select 10 of those. That is more competitive than to get into Harvard Business School. It's a very competitive program, it's a very competitive process. So the way that we look to do that is through kind of a number of key phases. We first look at it from a purely investment lens. What is the team who are around that? Have you got the right people to actually be able to execute on your vision? Have you got an idea of how your product fit can help the market? And from that, we're able to then start filtering that down quite quickly to a top 50 companies. So make sure, as you're applying for these programs, whether it be the Barclays program or any other program that you're looking for, you're able to articulate why you're different, the opportunity that you can, the strength of your team. The second element, this is where Barclays comes in. We had a product lens on top of that. So it's very important for us to be able to match these businesses to opportunities that we have within the organization. That's one of the value lenses that my team are responsible for looking for. How do we drive those partnerships that we can obviously enjoy the growth with you and get value out of that? So what we do is we have a number of senior folks within Barclays looking at these ideas that come in through our accelerator. They're actually spending their time, their team's time, to actually start understanding quite quickly, is there a conflict of interest here? Have we done it before and we don't buy it? Actually, could this work from a technical perspective within our estate? In getting that, we can very quickly validate the opportunity for us, but also very quickly validate the opportunity for those companies and let them know what they need to start thinking about as they continue to build out their business. And then finally, we conclude that with a Dragon's Den type pitch day. And so I'm often asked, I'm coming in to pitch in front of my, in front of these senior stakeholders, whether it be in any corporate, potential customers. What can I do to make myself stand out? And what can I do to make sure that I have the best chance of success? And we'll come on to that in a bit more detail shortly. But in essence, it comes down to 3 core things. What is the problem that you are solving? What is your business? Why are you here? Why are you adding, how are you trying to infiltrate that value chain? How are you trying to add value to those partners? Not just the end customer, but actually the partner that you want to work with. Why are you unique? We find that many organizations come to us and pitch us, getting massive claims around how they're going to revolutionize the industry. Okay, That's great. Why are you unique? What are your competitors trying to do? Have a very clear vision of what you're able to achieve and why you're different in the market to get that buy-in. Finally, who is it that you are trying to sell to? It seems very simple and very clear, but actually we find in many organizations that people don't know what their end customer is. And if you can get that locked down in your mind before you enter the room, you've won half the battle. So thank you. So from that, we ultimately get our 10 companies that come into our Accelerator program. Excuse me. So how do we structure it? Why do we structure it as we do? What do we give back to these companies? You know, our Accelerator is an equity-led program. You know, these startups are coming in, they're giving up 6% of their business. It's on us to make sure that we can add value back to those organizations for the commitment and time that they're giving us. And so we structure the 3-month program in 3 core phases. The first one is mentorship. You know, we recognize that you may have a great idea, but you need to refine that. You need to speak to many people from very different angles so that you can really understand and build out your MVP. So we have, over a month, over 100 meetings for each company with different specialists. They could be financial service experts, they could be design experts, they could be technical experts, they could be investment experts. All of that allows these businesses to quickly start getting to the mode of how to pitch, start solidifying what their opportunity is and how they can go and do that. The second phase is then all around traction. So it's in our interest as a bank, as a corporate, and interest as an investor for you guys to start understanding your KPIs and start being able to sell that out. You know, we as a bank want to support, maybe become that lighthouse client of yours, but we need to start building confidence with you together. And so that comes from being able to quickly test things with other, with the bank, with other clients, getting those key KPIs that allow you to start showing that you are, a unique business and you're able to grow. And then the final element of the program is all around story. How are we able to articulate to market exactly what it is that you are here to do, what you're trying to say, because that narrative is going to last with you going forward. And we want to help you refine that as you grow with us. So just to take a sideward step here for a moment. We've been doing this as Barclays for 4 years, and we've learned a hell of a lot in terms of how we need to engage effectively within this ecosystem. You know, it's very hard for a large corporate and corporation like Barclays to get that nimbleness, to get that agility, to make those quick decisions to move forward, which is what we, to be honest, what we crave from the startup ecosystem. Your ability to flex and to be able to move nimbly is what we can't do and why we want to partner with you. But what we found is that, and where our success lies, that it was very hard for us as an organization to move out of the proof of concept phase. You know, everyone always talks to you about show that traction, show how you're getting that proof of concept, so that you're able to kind of build out your MVP so that you can add value. At the end of the day, the reason anyone does that is that they want to then get it to that scaled approach, as we call it, to get it to that annualized relationship. And there's a big gap in terms of how do you get from that proof of concept to that annualized contract. Traditionally, how business used to be done, you'd go out, as an RFP, you'd make a big request, IBM, SAP would come in, you'd spend 2 years going and building it, and then you know what, it's probably a piece of shit anyway. But now how the bank wants to work is actually start iterating and building that up over time quickly, and this is common for the market. And so what we've learned is entering into this pilot phase, and this is my tip to you. Be very, very clear around what you're trying to achieve in that proof of concept to build momentum. Be very, very clear what it is that you're going to get out of it and what the partner, that corporate, whether it be Barclays or any other corporate, can get out of it. And then be very, very clear what those next steps are. The reason that seems so obvious, but actually that's where a lot of people fall down. It's very easy when it's exciting to test something in a protected environment. Actually being able to then start looking at the end game, how to move that further forward, and being able to provide that insight back to the corporate so that they can tell their story is massively valuable and a massive support. You know, go back a slide. So, what is it, though, that is a key driver for the bank? What is it and why we would make a decision to partner with this startup or not? Why is it that we'll put our time, our resource, our money to work? And so what we found is that there's these kind of core drivers that I hope that all of you will find when you're trying to get in with other organizations. Who is, first of all, the person in that corporate who's put their hand on the line and are the key accountable executive? Without that, you're wasting your time. You're not able to move forward into those organizations without someone very clearly owning that on the other side and willing to back you going forward. What is the market opportunity? Not just for yourself, but actually for the overall partnership. If you can articulate that clearly, you'll actually then be able to start driving that growth and being able to work alongside those businesses and be able to tell that story. What is the commercial output you're trying to get to? You know, we want the customers to win. We want to take those costs out, but what is that value that you can give in? You know, we often find that we're working with startups and they're saying, this is how we're going to change your business. This is how we're going to make it easier for you. But when you get into the actual detail of then the commercial discussion, we're not able to then execute that. So do have a very clear view of how you want to add value. Feasibility, what I mean by that is how much lift is needed from a technical perspective, from a product perspective, to actually then build on those relationships. Really think that through, really make it as simple as possible as you scale, so that the organization can grow with you and can invest with you over that time. So hopefully that's starting to give you an idea of what we're looking for. And I wanted to talk to you a little bit around some of the case studies that we have and moments of success that we have had through our program. So we have here Live Oak, Chainalysis, Wave, and ShieldPay. I won't mention ShieldPay because Jeff is on after me and he'll articulate a lot more around it from the startup side. Let me start with Chainalysis. Chainalysis, I think, is a great example and a great case study of how you can gain value with a partner. So Chainalysis are a compliance tool for cryptocurrencies. They are some of the leading thinkers in terms of how this market moved forward. And so what we look to do with them is that we first started out as a bank to understand how do we want to exist in this market? How do we want to interact in this market? We had these very big questions and we didn't know the answer. And what Chainalysis really helped us do was understand how we can find out those answers and how they can add value to that and how we can work with them to make that a reality. And so what they did was they first of all enabled us to start understanding actually how should we even be looking at the Bitcoin blockchain market? What does it mean? What's our exposures to that? We had challenges around risk, around KYC, around AML. They very clearly articulate how they could add value to that and give us that transparency so that we are able to go to our regulators to actually start understanding that. They were able to showcase how they were adding value back to us very clearly. Ultimately, as we grew that partnership, we contracted with Chainalysis, and they allowed us to become the first bank in Europe to be able to start offering banking services to Bitcoin companies, Circle and Coinbase being the major ones that we support. Live Oak. So Live Oak are a collaboration platform. They bring together e-signature, video conferencing, and co-browse. And when we actually started with them, they didn't really necessarily know where they could add value into that value chain for the bank. And so I like to bring up this case study and this example because it's a good way in terms of how we can grow together and how we can learn together. So they came to us and they recognized that we have a need here around onboarding businesses. we have a challenge around that. How the world is becoming more and more digital, but people still want that human interaction. They actually started to link into that narrative of how we as an organization want to drive a digital approach, but also keep that human touch. And so as they started to articulate to this, it made our lives a lot easier in understanding how they could fit in to our ecosystem, how we could work together. And ultimately, where that came to over a number of different proof of concepts, that we had a 5-year deal with them to actually become one of our strategic providers in how we deal with our customers. They were able to talk about how they could technically integrate with minimal lift for us, talk about how we can actually work together to add value and take those costs out, and what their core need was over that time. And so if you're able to continue to articulate those points, you're making it very, very easy for organizations like Barclays and other corporates to work with you. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of context around where we are as a bank, around how we are looking at this, how we want to engage into the fintech ecosystem. Hopefully it gives you a bit of a view around how we're trying to do that through our Accelerator. And I'm more than happy for anyone who's interested to go into details around actually the depth of what you get from doing that. And hopefully you're starting to get a view of actually what is required to make yourself stand out. So just to kind of recap those 3 core things. What problem are you solving? What is the value of that partnership and why you can bring value to that? Why are you unique? Why are you different from your competitors? Why are you able to do something that others cannot? Why should we as a corporate work with you as a startup, and why should we want to do that? And vice versa. What can we bring to the table as a corporate that adds value to your relationships as well? And then finally, the who. Who are you talking to? Who are you wanting to sell to? Make sure that you're having the right conversations with the right people within that corporate. That's extremely hard to do, and that's part of the sales cycle that you're going to have to go through to validate. But as you start understanding who the decision makers are, who you want to sell to, and how you want to add value there, that will allow you to very quickly start validating the opportunities within that enterprise around the opportunity that you can move forward. So, thank you for listening to me. I'd love to have take any questions in the time that we have, if you have any. So please open the floor. Any questions? Yeah, please.
Hi, thanks for the speech. I'm just curious, what's the relation with the startups after the accelerator? What you articulate to the startups after they go through it, the whole program? And from your examples, maybe you have some stories to share. If startups go, if you part ways, if they go on their own, and if you consider, acquiring them in total. So that's just things I want to do.
Yeah, no, great question. Thank you. So the answer is that from our perspective, at least I can talk to you from the Barclays, that we see every relationship that we have, it's on us to help them grow, regardless of where it's just through Barclays. And the reason that we do that is that we look at the relationship not just as a traditional vendor relationship, but in a more nuanced manner. We look at it through 3 value lenses. Is there a product opportunity that we have today? Maybe not today, that's fine. Is there an investment opportunity that we can then help them grow and help them scale? And is there a banking opportunity? Are we able to help through the traditional means fund that growth as that bank? And so when a company comes out of the program, we may hopefully over that short period of time, we've been able to validate if there's opportunity for us to continue the relationship as a vendor, as a partner. If we haven't, we are still invested to make sure that we can help them grow. And so what we look to do is open up our client base, our vendor base, to these startups so that we can match them also within other organizations. Because whilst we may not at this time be able to work with you, in keeping that relationship close, as you evolve your business and hopefully help you grow, we may be able to re-engage at a later time. You know, so some of the examples that I didn't talk about, we find that actually we can do those proof of concepts, and maybe at the end of that, we recognize that both sides are just not ready to partner. And so we'll pause, we'll keep that relationship going, we'll try and help their growth, and maybe it's a year later or 2 years later, as the company has matured a little more, as they've kind of understood where they can add value a bit more to the bank, we can re-engage and then we can re-partner, and that's really important to us to be able to do that. So it's a long answer to your question, which is yes, we continue to help and support them grow because we recognize that it might not be today that we can work together, but we can do potentially in the future.
So thank you so much.
Thank you. Cheers, guys.